After giving birth, my husband insisted on a DNA test to expose me, but when the results came back, can you imagine being told the child you just birthed, the one you risked everything for, isn't yours? That your husband looked at your newborn son, fresh from your body, and spat, "That thing is not mine." Right then, with his mother smirking behind him and his father watching silently, I knew my world wasn't just collapsing, it was being torn to shreds by a secret so dark, so twisted, it would make your skin crawl. And the worst part? It wasn't even my secret. They say some wounds never truly heal, they just learn to hide beneath the skin, waiting for the perfect moment to bleed again. I was 27 years old when that moment hit me, full force, in a hospital room in Philadelphia. 27, with a tiny, perfect newborn cradled in my arms, and a husband staring at me like I was a stranger he despised. My name isn't important anymore. What matters is the nightmare I endured, and the fight I found within myself to claw my way back. I grew up in a small apartment in North Philly, raised by my incredible grandmother after my parents died when I was 6. We didn't have much, but we had an abundance of love. My grandma worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to put me through college. I became a kindergarten teacher because I wanted to give children the same warmth and safety she gave me. Then I met him. It was at a charity gala. I was volunteering, pouring drinks for the city's elite. He was the son of one of the biggest luxury car dealership owners on the East Coast, the Harrisons. Old money, political connections, country club memberships, everything I wasn't. But he approached me with a smile that genuinely made my heart skip. He told me I was the most beautiful woman in the room. I laughed, said he needed glasses, but he just kept coming back. Week after week, he'd show up at the community center where I worked, bringing flowers, lunch, promises. My grandmother, bless her heart, she saw right through it. "Baby girl," she'd warn, "men like that don't marry women like us. They collect us." But I was young, I was foolish, and I believed in fairy tales. We got married a year later. The wedding was small, hush-hush, his family insisting on privacy. I later learned it was because they were ashamed. From the moment I stepped into that massive mansion, I felt like an alien. My mother-in-law never used my name. I was her or the girl. My father-in-law was polite, but his gaze, it always made me feel like an exhibit, not a person. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things. And my husband, the charming man who pursued me, vanished. He became cold, distant, always working late, always traveling. I spent most nights alone in that cavernous house, surrounded by staff who pitied me and in-laws who barely tolerated me. When I got pregnant, I clung to the hope that a baby would change everything, that it would finally bring us together. For 3 glorious months, he seemed genuinely happy talking about names, schools, teaching our son golf. I believed we had a chance. Then everything shifted. It started at Thanksgiving dinner. The entire Harrison clan was there, cousins, aunts, uncles, business partners. I was 5 months pregnant, exhausted. My father-in-law, with that smooth, charming smile he always wore, handed me a glass of wine. "1 glass won't hurt," he said. "It's a special vintage." I shouldn't have taken it. I knew I shouldn't have. But I just wanted to fit in, to be accepted. I took a few sips. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in my bed the next morning, head pounding, a strange, deep soreness in my body. My husband was already gone on a business trip. The house was utterly silent, empty except for the staff. I tried to rationalize it. Too much to drink, just being paranoid. But deep in my gut, a primal scream told me something was terribly wrong. The pregnancy continued. My husband grew even more distant. My mother-in-law started making insidious comments about the baby's due date, about how I was showing too early, about how pregnancy tests can be wrong. I didn't understand what she was implying then. Not fully. My water broke 3 weeks early. I called my husband, but he didn't answer. I took a cab to the hospital, completely alone. I labored for 16 excruciating hours, by myself. When my son finally arrived, screaming and perfect, I sobbed with pure joy. And that's when my husband walked in. He didn't congratulate me. He didn't hold our son. He stood at the foot of my bed, his mother and father flanking him, and looked at my baby like he was inspecting a defective product. "The baby came early," my mother-in-law said, her voice dripping with malice. "Too early." "I've been counting the weeks," my husband added, his face contorted. "The math doesn't add up." I stared at them, confused, scared. "What are you talking about?" "He's premature. Babies come early sometimes." My husband's face twisted with disgust. "Don't play dumb. I know what you did. I know you were sleeping around." "What?" I gasped. "I never. That thing is not mine," he roared, pointing at my baby. The words that still echo in my nightmares. "You think I'm stupid enough to raise another man's bastard?" I clutched my son to my chest, shaking uncontrollably. "He's yours." "I swear to God, I was never with anyone else. Ever." My mother-in-law stepped forward, that cold, predatory smile back on her face. "We're requesting a DNA test. And when it proves what we already know, you'll be out of this family before the week is over." My father-in-law just stood there, watching, silent. But I noticed something. His hands were trembling, subtly. His jaw was tight.
And he wasn't looking at me.
He was looking at the baby. An older doctor, with kind eyes and gray hair, came in to check on me. He immediately sensed the toxic tension in the room. He asked my husband and his parents to step outside, but my husband refused. "I want answers," he demanded. "I want to know who the father of this baby is." The doctor looked at me, then at my son, then back at my husband. Something in his expression hardened. "Mr. Harrison," he said slowly, carefully, "may I speak with you privately? It's important. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here," my husband snapped. The doctor hesitated. Then he spoke, every word measured. "The baby has a genetic marker that indicates a familial connection to your family, Mr. Harrison. But not to you specifically. The father appears to be a close relative." Silence. Deafening, chilling silence. My husband blinked, his face going from confusion to horror. "What do you mean, a close relative?" "I mean," the doctor continued, his voice unwavering, "the biological father shares significant DNA with you. A father, a brother, an uncle, someone in your direct bloodline." I watched my husband's face drain of all color. I watched my mother-in-law's smirk evaporate into a look of pure dread. And I watched my father-in-law's hands tremble so violently he had to grip the doorframe to stay upright. In that agonizing moment, it all clicked into place. The Thanksgiving dinner.
The wine.
The memory I couldn't find. My father-in-law. He had done something unspeakable. Unforgivable. The days that followed were a blur of tears and absolute terror. My husband stormed out of the hospital, slamming the door. My mother-in-law followed him, but not before leaning close to my ear and whispering, "If you say a word about this, we will destroy you." My father-in-law? He just left, like the coward he was. I was discharged 2 days later with my newborn son. Nowhere to go. My grandmother had passed the year before. I had no family, no friends in their world, and not a penny of my own. All our accounts were joint, and by the time I found an ATM, everything was frozen. I ended up at a women's shelter in West Philadelphia with my perfect, innocent son, a plastic bag containing 2 outfits, and a can of formula a kind hospital nurse had secretly given me. That night, on a cot, staring at my baby's face, I couldn't comprehend how my life had shattered so completely. But I refused to break. I refused to let them win. A social worker at the shelter connected me with Denise, a phenomenal pro bono lawyer. A fierce black woman in her 50s who had dedicated her life to fighting for women like me. When I told her my story, she didn't flinch. "We're going to need proof," she said calmly. "The DNA test results, any medical records, anything that documents what happened to you." I don't remember what happened. I admitted, my voice raw. I just know I woke up feeling wrong. Denise nodded knowingly. "That's common with drug-facilitated assault. The memories are there, but they're fragmented. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. But we don't need your memory. We need evidence." The first step was an official DNA test. Denise pulled every string she had to expedite the process. When the results came back, they confirmed the doctor's suspicion. My son's father was not my husband. It was someone genetically close to him. Someone like his father. Armed with that information, Denise and I began to dig. We filed requests for medical records. We tracked down former employees of the Harrison household. And we found something that made my blood run cold. A young woman named Teresa, who had worked as a housekeeper for the Harrisons 5 years before I married into the family. She had left suddenly, without explanation. No one knew where she went. It took us 2 grueling months to find her. She was living in a small town in upstate New York, working at a grocery store, a ghost hiding in plain sight. When Denise and I showed up at her door, she looked like she'd seen one. "I can't talk about that family," she said, trying to close the door. "Please," I begged, desperation in my voice. "He did something to me, too. I have a son. I need to know the truth." She stared at me for a long, agonizing moment. Then she started to cry. Teresa's story was almost identical to mine. A holiday gathering, a special drink, waking up confused and violated. When she tried to tell someone, the family paid her off, threatened to ruin her life if she ever breathed a word. "There were others," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I heard rumors about at least 2 more women, but they were too scared to talk." With Teresa's testimony and the undeniable DNA evidence, Denise finally felt confident enough to file a formal complaint with the district attorney. But we both knew it wouldn't be easy. The Harrison family had connections everywhere: judges, politicians, police chiefs. They had spent generations building a fortress of influence. The first assistant DA we met with told us there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute. The second said the case was too old. The third didn't even return our calls. I started to lose hope. I was living in a tiny apartment now, working double shifts as a waitress, my son with a neighbor who babysat for almost nothing. Every night I came home exhausted, and every night I looked at my beautiful boy and wondered if I could actually take on a monster that powerful. Then something completely unexpected happened. My husband called me. I almost didn't answer, but some flicker of curiosity, told me to pick up. "I need to see you," he said. His voice was different. Broken. We met at a quiet diner, far from his family's usual haunts. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks, his eyes shadowed with pain. "I confronted him," he said quietly, looking down at his coffee. "My father. I asked him directly what he did to you." I held my breath. "And he didn't deny it." My husband's voice cracked. "He said you were just a gold digger. That it didn't matter what happened to you. He said he was teaching me a lesson about trusting outsiders." I felt sick to my stomach. The casualness of it. The complete lack of remorse. "I thought I knew my father," he continued, tears streaming down his face. "I thought he was hard but fair. I didn't know he was a monster." "What are you going to do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a raw, desperate resolve. "I'm going to help you bring him down." Over the next month, my husband became our most valuable, most surprising ally. He used his access, his knowledge of the family's secrets, to gather evidence. Documents from the family business showing suspicious payments to women over the years. Settlements disguised as severance packages. Non-disclosure agreements that mentioned nothing specific but promised enormous sums for silence. Then he found something else, something truly damning, a recording. His father had a habit of recording business calls for legal protection. What he didn't realize was that the system also recorded calls on the family's personal line. My husband dug through years of archives and found a conversation between his parents from the night after Thanksgiving. In the recording, clear as day, my mother-in-law's voice, "Did you do it again?" And my father-in-law's chilling response, "She won't remember anything." They never do. When Denise heard that, she smiled for the first time since I'd met her. "We've got him," she declared, pure satisfaction in her voice. The day we filed the official charges, news crews surrounded the courthouse. My story had leaked somehow. Maybe a clerk, maybe a reporter with good instincts. Either way, my face was suddenly everywhere. The Harrison family tried to fight back. They released statements calling me a liar, a gold digger, a mentally unstable woman trying to extort money. My mother-in-law even gave an interview, claiming I had seduced her husband, that I was the predator, not the victim. But then Teresa came forward publicly. And then another woman. And another. 5 victims in total, spanning 2 decades. 5 women with the exact same story, the same chilling pattern, the same monster. Public opinion shifted like a tidal wave. The hashtag #MeToo began trending nationwide. Women across the country shared their own stories in solidarity. Politicians who had once attended the Harrison family's lavish fundraisers suddenly couldn't recall ever meeting them. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 2 harrowing days. I told them everything. The wine, the memory loss, the hospital, the rejection, the abject terror of being a new mother, utterly alone, with no one to believe her. When I was done, I looked at my father-in-law, sitting at the defendant's table. He looked smaller than I remembered, older, defeated. The aura of power that once radiated from him was gone, utterly extinguished. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts: aggravated sexual assault, drugging for purposes of assault, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. The judge sentenced him to 40 years in prison. He would die behind bars. My mother-in-law filed for divorce the same day. Not because she believed us, because she wanted to protect her assets. My husband and I never reconciled as a couple. Too much damage had been done, too much betrayal. But he remained a constant, loving presence in our son's life. He paid child support, attended school events, and never once treated our boy as anything less than his own. DNA didn't matter to him anymore. Love did. I used the settlement money from the civil lawsuit to start a foundation for survivors of assault. We provide legal aid, counseling, and emergency housing for women who have nowhere else to turn. In the past 10 years, we've helped over 3,000 women rebuild their lives. My son is grown now. He knows his story. He knows where he came from, and he knows that his origin doesn't define him. What defines him is the man he chose to become. He's a family therapist today, helping others heal from trauma. I couldn't be prouder. Sometimes people ask me if I regret marrying into that family. If I wish I had just listened to my grandmother's warning. I think about it for a moment. Then I look at my son. I look at the foundation. I look at all the women who found their voices because I found mine. And I tell them, no, I don't regret it. Because sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you becomes the very reason you find your purpose. I was 27 when my world fell apart in that hospital room. I'm 63 now, and I'm still standing, still fighting, still refusing to be silent. That's what they never understood about women like me. You can knock us down. You can humiliate us. You can steal our memories and try to erase our truth. But you cannot break us. Not unless we let you. And I never let them. What about you? Have you ever had to fight tooth and nail for something you knew was right, even when the odds seemed impossible? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to hear your stories.